Hi YouTubers, I'm back for another YouTube video of what would have happened if this were in real life. Now, I mean, I've been trying very hard again to do all this, like, it's very obvious, like, there's this week, and then there's next week, and then there's, would be another, then after next week's, what would have happened if this were in real life RhinoTMRT gameplay series YouTube video will be on September 1st, though, in 2 weeks from now. So you all should be very excited about that. Now, I mean, I have some ideas, so seeing how I already done Wally 2 and Megamind 2 for what would have happened if this were in real life, I figured why not do Penguins of Madagascar 2. Yeah, so I guess that kind of already works out, so... This is what would have happened if the Penguins of Madagascar 2 movie were in real life. Now we cut open to the very beginning. I mean, it's very obvious that I have a couple of ideas for this. So, yeah. Where life is totally different. Dave from the first Penguins of Madagascar movie is officially gone forever, like he'll never return. And all of them, Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, Private, they're all enjoying their lives. They're all having fun. Yeah, that is. That is until when they find out that Dr. Blowhole, that's until when they find out that a new threat has come to Antarctica, their home place a home place where Dr. Blowhole. Yeah, I figured he was in the TV show, so I figured why not add him in the second movie, who in this case has a different voice. Which case for the Dr. Blowhole in this movie would actually be a much better CGI version of him in the TV show, and it would actually feature a different actor, which kind of just makes sense. So then Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, and Private, they go back to Antarctica and they stop Dr. Blowhole, but then they find out that he is actually the key. Then Private actually has a flashback of him remembering about how he was found by by Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico. And that kind of just makes sense. So this is sort of like a flashback scene because it kind of would feel very different. So then Private eventually runs off to a different area of Antarctica and tells Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico that his parents are out there and could be in captivity of Dr. Blowhole. So yeah, but they ask him where he's going, only to find out that they're going where else? They're going where else? They're going where else? Denmark Zoo, where they're being held, where his parents are being held captive, which of course kind of does make sense. So I figured, so even though Penguins of Madagascar, even though this idea of Penguins of mine that of Penguins of Madagascar 2, it's kind of ripping off Finding Dory, where Dory has to go find her parents. So it kind of is ripping off that, but hey, at least it's fine. It's my idea, and I can deal with it. So then eventually Private tells Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico that he has to find his true parents because Private's father, uncle, and godfather surely aren't Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico. So they succeed and they find someone who does. They find someone who does this. Well, technically, what I mean by when they find someone who does this, I mean by the north wind from the first Penguins of Madagascar film and the Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, and Private. They all travel far and they all travel to Denmark, where Private's parents are being held captive and by Dr. Blowhole. So they're racing to get there before Dr. Blowhole gets there, and well, technically, and before that kind of does make sense. Then eventually Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, Private, and of course the North Wind from the first Penguins of Madagascar film. They all here in Denmark, which of course very obvious. Now here in Denmark Zoo, which of course the Denmark zookeeper there actually mistakes the North Wind for real life human beings, where the Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, and Private are not mistaken as human beings, and how they're stuck in the penguin exhibit, how they're stuck in the puffin exhibit, only to find out that Hans the puffin from the Penguins of Madagascar TV show then later appears. Yeah, which kind of does make sense. So yeah, and then he appears and he tells them that he's been stuck there for a very long time. And then all the other Denmark Zoo animals from the Penguins of Madagascar TV show, they all make appearances. They all tell how they were treated badly. They all tell how they've been treated goodly by the Denmark zookeeper. I forgot her name, from the Penguins of Madagascar TV show. So yeah, then of course we forward to the middle of the movie, where they're actually in their battle plan, where they're trying to find a way to put an end to Dr. Woolhole and to free Private's parents. And then there's a few couple of emotional moments with Private trying to like survive and whatnot, and with him trying to do that. Now I already envision what this will be like, but yeah, it kind of does make sense. So unlike what I just said before, Private eventually easily locks up Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico, and all the other Denmark Zoo animals from the Penguins of Madagascar TV shows, and says that he has to go alone against Dr. Blowhole in order to free his parents and his family legacy, which kind of does make sense. So Private eventually runs away, and he eventually escapes the area. So then eventually Dr. Blowhole is holding Private's parents captured, which all this time. So Dr. Bull tells Private's parents, which technically have no names, he tells them that once Denmark has become loyal to Dr. Bullhole, he can put an end to New York City and the entire world, which this is kind of what I was thinking of. Yeah, so then Private appears right in front of Dr. Blowhole, which of course that is. Private eventually uses the moves that he was taught by Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico, which of course kind of does make sense. And then we come back to Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico in the north, and Skipper, Kowalski, and Rico, and of course the Denmark Zoo animals, where they're all trapped, only for the North Wind to come back and save them. And yet again, they come back to save them just like how Private came back to save the North Wind, and of course all the other penguins from the Penguins of Madagascar movie, which kind of makes sense, seeing how that would work out. And then they all eventually go to Private's location, and then they all have a big battle scene in Denmark, which is something that's already been done in the TV show, Private is battling Dr. Blowhole from the Penguins of Madagascar TV show, and then there's this big scene that actually changes the film's history, that actually does that. Then this scene actually reveals that Private is eventually injured, because, well, every other point of it. And then, just before Dr. Blowhole is trying to get rid of Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, and Private, Hans, the puffin from the Penguins of Madagascar TV show actually sacrifices himself for his own self. Like, he sacrifices his own self. So yeah, Hans eventually, the puppet from the Penguins of Madagascar TV show, tells Skipper that he is a honorable penguin slash puppet or whatever he thinks he's called, and then Hans the puppet eventually dies. And then all the other Denmark Zoo animals eventually they all continuing fighting against Dr. Blowhole. Dr. Blowhole eventually escapes, but eventually escapes, even though then now Private now Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, and Private, they free Private's parents, but Dr. Blowhole escapes in this version. So in the Penguins of Madagascar 2, Dr. Blowhole actually escapes through using a helicopter, and all of his his crab army eventually saves him, because they hijacked a helicopter. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. Dr. Blowhole escaped. He is now done. Yeah, meanwhile, then there's a funeral scene for Hans Puppen from the Penguins of Madagascar TV show. He couldn't make it, but hey, at least it worked out well in the end. So yeah, that kind of does make perfectly good sense. Eventually, Silver tells Private that they saved his parent, that we may have saved your parents, but Hans the Puffin did not survive. Hans the Puffin from the Penguins of Madagascar TV show did not survive, and I mean literally did not survive. Yeah, but then Skipper, Kowalski, Rico, and Private, and of course the North Wind and all the Denmark Zoo animals, they all celebrate now that they have finally gone, and now that Private and his parents eventually they all celebrate, and how Private is reunited with his parents, and Private actually says this famous quote right here that he says, "You are all my animal fam. You are all my animal family, and nothing will change that." And so they all celebrate. They all technically they all celebrate. They all have a perfectly good time, and that pretty much ends this movie. And then the credits roll with a new song, just like in the first movie. And that's pretty much it. That's what would have, and I guess that's what would have happened at the Penguins of Madagascar 2 movie if it were in real life. Now, sadly, we'll never get to see this. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we might or might not get to see this. I was hoping to see this, but I couldn't think of any other stories. It's very complicated, and I just, it's a very complicated thing that I've been doing for a very long time, but hey, I gotta do what I gotta do. It's fine, and it's good the way it is. Yeah. And, yes, that's it. So, yeah. And that's it for today. Peace out. Bye-bye.